Just spent a lot of time with my daughters. Actually took a trip up to Santa Cruz. I have an uncle up there. So it was good seeing his family. There's Shay. How's it going, Shay? All right, as usual, please go find the tasks for Unit 2, Lesson 5, U2L5. It'll be under assignments or on the Canvas homepage on the weekly calendar. We'll start off with, again, one of our little breakout room check-ins with a silly question, which I will throw in the chat right now. Okay, the question is, if you could be in any movie, and I'll extend this to animated movies and TV shows too if you really need to, what would it be and what character would you play? And it's okay if it's like a tragedy or something. You can pick a character who dies. It still might be a character you want to emulate. So again, if you could be in any movie, TV show, animated, whatever, what would it be and what character would you play? I'm going to give you 30 seconds to think about it and then open up the breakout rooms. All right, we'll come back together in 2 minutes. Breakout rooms are open. So let's take a look. Lung damage from vaping. I found a few interesting things from this. I hope you did as well. So looking at responses, the two TV ads, obviously very different messages. So obviously I don't know how to say this. Is it Fenice? Anyone know that company? I don't know that company. What's the goal of them putting that ad out? Who can share?
Promote vaping.
Yeah, right. I love they show the happy guy like playing soccer and then he pulls his vape out, afterwards. Obviously then what's the messaging Tobacco-Free California is sending?
Vape bad.
Yeah, exact opposite.
Yes, the exact opposite, and pretty intensely. They don't hold back on their ads. And you can look up Tobacco-Free California has put out tons of anti-smoking stuff that's always been pretty on the nose and pretty extreme, but I think it is effective. And so it's just good to see and be aware of when you're watching ads like this and videos as well. I'm amazed on YouTube of how many videos there are of people who criticize these Tobacco-Free California ads, and half the time they're vaping while they're doing it. And so it's sort of like you got to take people's interests and intentions into mind, and companies as well. Their intent is to make money, not necessarily maintain your health. And I think that's kind of the big takeaway just from comparing those two ads I wanted to start with. E-cigarette liquid has been found to contain all of those things: formaldehyde, toxins found in weed killers. Oddly enough, one of the weird things that's most damaging is actually a vitamin E, which is fine if we ingest it or get it on our skin, but when you get it in your lungs, it's actually an irritant. Let's see. Actually, you can stop the screen here. How many of you had heard popcorn lung before? I'd heard it before. I always thought it was because your lung like rattled, like it made like a popcorny sound. I had no idea that it's because it was first observed in workers in popcorn factories who were getting exposed to that same chemical that's used for flavoring. Anyway, I thought that was kind of fascinating. And it looks like most of you got that response. I think it's lipoid. Lipoid pneumonia is because of you breathing in the oils. You're not meant to have oils inhaled into your lungs. And so it's no surprise that fat buildup on the inside of lungs and in your alveoli can cause problems. And specifically pneumonia and the buildup of fluid. I thought this was kind of interesting, and it relates back a little bit to the video we watched in a previous lesson, I think, where we talked about the lung collapse, of why tall, thin people are more prone, especially when through rapid growth in adolescence. And it's literally because their lungs are all stretched out and they actually have little kind of weak points that you would normally never notice. It wouldn't be a big deal. They would heal up eventually. But for some teenagers who are smoking or vaping intensely, that's where you get that rupture. And I think that's what that teenager we saw in that video in our previous class had experienced, the spontaneous pneumothorax. And so it's sort of ironic, but I'll have you share with me. Does anyone know why were e-cigarettes first invented? They were first invented as for medical use. Does anyone know what they were meant to do?
They get people off cigarettes.
Yeah. Keone, do you
Yeah.
know how they specifically did that?
Well, they emulate smoking,
Yep. And then
pretty
what they
much
would
it.
do is they would kind of slowly decrease the nicotine content, right? That was the idea, is that you kind of
Yeah.
slowly worked yourself off it until you were free of it. And then either continue using none. So what's the ironic thing they're now seeing? What are vape pens now doing?
Now it's causing nicotine addiction.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
driving teenagers. Teenagers think it's this cool thing, and it seems to be driving them towards smoking. And also, just like how you can reduce the nicotine content, that's what it was initially intended for. Of course, now producers have found a way to do what to the nicotine content?
Amplify it.
They
Amplify
just
it.
make it so high. Yeah.
Yeah, now you can have like one hit is the equivalent of an entire pack of cigarettes. And sometimes for a lot of young kids, sometimes that's the first thing they're trying. So that's where the risk lies with a lot of this. So just good to be aware of. You're all going to make your own choices. And I think we are kind of seeing the decrease now in the fad, or at least there's been a lot of medical things that are coming up. But it's been an interesting recent phenomena. And that's kind of one of the issues the article brings up, is that we have decades of data about smoking, right? And heavy research into what's in cigarettes and what's bad about them. Vaping is still very new. And so there's not a lot of data to go off of, other than what they've been recently seeing with popcorn lung and things like that. So any other questions or comments on that? Yeah, Jillian.
So I just have like a quick, I don't know if you know the answer to this at all, but basically I know that there's like the essential oil pens. Are those like I don't know, is that like as bad for you as vape? I really don't know. I've seen like people are like, yeah, they're fine, but it's also oil, so I don't really know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Inhaling anything chemical based into your lungs is probably not the best idea, but I mean, I have heard about essential oil stuff. I haven't ever heard about vaping it. I've heard about, applying it and ingesting it. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you can look it up. There are, I would say too, that there might be some potential uses for that to help with certain lung ailments. Like if someone has a condition that could be a therapy for, but I don't know about recreational use. Keone?
Oh yeah, this is from the homework I think due today, but that link to the college humor, little sketch about vaping.
The CEO of Juul.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
That was funny.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Did you have a question about it, or you just enjoyed it?
No, just wanted to say
you should check it out. They do a whole series. The one that I think is the best is they have the Tide Pod, the Tide CEO talking about teenagers eating Tide Pods. It's very funny. You should check that out. But it kind of hits on the nose that these companies were definitely targeting teenagers with flavors and the kind of coolness, and so I'm glad they've been called out about that. There's been a lot of bans that have gone into effect now. All right. Okay, I'm a little worried about timing here. I had planned a little activity. We were going to do kind of a four corners thing, have a quick debate about, I want to try one round. So we're going to try to do what would normally be called four corners in a classroom. Here it's going to be three corners, but it's on the tasks to complete list. So what's going to happen is you have three options. You can agree, disagree, or be neutral or undecided. What you're going to do is I'm going to present a statement about something, and you're going to chat to me whether you agree, disagree, or are neutral about it. And then I'll split you into breakout rooms based on that, and for like 2 minutes to kind of discuss, and then we'll come back together to kind of get a consensus from the agree group, disagree group, and neutral group. So you will need to identify a speaker as well. I'm going to go with our second option rather than the first one, just because hopefully this might generate a little more discussion. So in the chat right now is the statement. The statement is, a teenager who vaped so much that his or her lungs became irreversibly damaged should be placed lower on the organ donation waiting list to receive a new lung, so the people who never chose to smoke or vape get priority. Think about how you feel about that. Do you agree with that statement? Do you disagree with that statement? Or are you neutral, undecided? and then chat to me, again, one of those options, agree, disagree, or neutral, and I will place you into new breakout rooms based on that, so you can kind of discuss your opinions. This will take a minute, so, oh, I actually haven't closed the breakout rooms yet. Okay, to manually create 3 rooms. All right. So again, I need to hear from everybody in the chat, and I will kind of group you as, this will just take 1 minute. So I'm gonna make the agree group first. All right, looks like we've got a decent spread. I'm always worried about everyone just choosing one option. Oh my. All right. Okay, I think I've heard from everybody. So it looks like we only have agree or neutral. So breakout rooms are open. Just for 2 minutes, briefly kind of discuss your thinking about the matter and assign a sort of speaker who can kind of share the consensus once we're back together. And I'm gonna take the disagree stance just to make things a little more exciting. So we'll come back together in 2 minutes.
Hey, Mr. Aid.
Yeah.
I also said disagree just for the fun of it. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I will move you to the disagree group.
Okay. Cool.
All right, Keon, we disagree.
Well, okay.
We got to defend ourselves somehow.
Yeah.
Okay, we're all back. All right, I hope that was somewhat interesting. I know that was really only covering the basics, but let's see some of your responses really quick. Article first started out by just pointing out that COVID-19 can cause all of these things: pneumonia, ARDS, and sepsis in the lungs. So it's just kind of a bad lung infection where liquids are building up and invites other types of infections. Hopefully you all understood that. What are those little tiny air sacs called? Who can pronounce it?
Alveoli.
Yep. And I found this video informative about ventilators. I had always just imagined it was almost like one of those hand pump things, pretty simple, but they're actually very complicated machines. And I assume they work because even though your lungs are full of fluid, it's pushing in the air and forcing your lungs to expand even more than they would be. I assume having all that liquid in your lungs means your diaphragm really can't even open your lungs up. You can't breathe like you normally would. And so a ventilator kind of takes that over and allows you to have oxygen. And those have been proved essential in treating people, and it's been a big problem, the shortage of the machines in hospitals. So they're still trying to get on top of that. The elderly smokers and people with asthma are definitely more vulnerable because of those pre-existing conditions. And that's been a problem across the US. That's another reason why the US has been hit really, really hard with COVID, is just we have a very high pre-existing non-communicable disease population. And then is it reversible and explained? Technically, yes, but it's not going to be immediate. It's going to take months, might even take years. Scarring has to go away inside your lungs, but they do eventually recover. And the pneumonia, I like that animation because it really showed the lungs swelling up, which I thought was interesting. So, okay. So the only homework is to prepare for upcoming assessments. The next time we meet, we will be taking the Unit 2 test on respiration. Just like last time, I have provided a study guide and review slides. Study guide looks like this. Same thing, there's links to the readings, there's links to videos I used. It kind of breaks down. But basically, we're going to be looking at Hall Chapter 9.1 that you read about anatomy of the respiratory system. Some of the stuff from the mountain climbing, AMS and HAPE, little jigsaw that we did. Then the physiology of respiration and how breathing works, and the mechanics and control that you read about in Hall. And then today's content, very basically, on different lung ailments, including the lung collapse stuff that we did in our previous lesson. That'll be the main focus of the test. Review slides, as usual, are just the previous slides I used in class. There actually aren't too many of them. But I promise to make it a more reasonable amount of time than our first test. And then we'll move on to, I think, the skeletal muscular system. So questions on that? Okay, that's it for me, kids. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank
Bye,
you.
thank you.
Bye. Thank